Margaret, do you think that in future, when people come and report to IMF and World Bank on FSAP, should they do their presentations differently?
Definitely. In all seriousness, yes. We actually are looking a lot at ways to be more strategic in the way that we communicate. And I think, today we certainly all felt the passion of our Fijian hosts for the topic. It was, very electric performance. But it also showed the commitment level. And I think both to communicate more effectively with stakeholders, with the international community, depending on the topic. It has to, of course, be in the right context. And with consumers that we want to reach. If we can do more of bringing in arts, of bringing in different kinds of culture, different types of media, I think that's something that will be very impactful. And AFI certainly can help to lead the way on that agenda.
That's so great, Margaret. As you can see, this is a very spontaneous session, so the preparation was actually that we don't have a presentation and we don't have a preparation. Why so? Because I think this session is really meant to look a little bit at what we are doing here at this forum, so maybe assess also a little bit the topics that we are going through, but most importantly, I think for all of us, is to look at the Alliance as a future organization. How do we want to be shaped? And what does our future, in fact, look like? That's why we have invited 5 people on the panel who represent partners. And, of course, we have 1 regulator. So we have Georgette, we have Margaret from the World Bank for the development partners, we have Alex, an investment partner of AFI from Omidyar, we have Joanne, a researcher from Harvard, and we have Penny from Visa, who is also a PPD partner to AFI. So this is what we are. So maybe I can start right away with Penny and ask, Penny, you have been to the PPD, you have been to this GPF. What do you take away so far? Because I understand it's your first GPF that you have attended, right?
It is the first GPF that I've attended with Visa. First of all, a very quick congratulations, of course, to AFI and to Fiji for such an amazing event. Absolutely fantastic. And thank you for all those fabulous dancers, because to be clear, I can't dance. I think one of the things that's really struck all of us on the Visa team here has been the level of excitement and energy at the GPF. We actually have a very big delegation here because we think this is an incredibly important platform. What we've been really most impressed with is the openness and desire to collaborate, and to collaborate deeply for change. And we do a lot of talking about collaboration, but I think the great thing about this environment and this particular forum is the willingness of people to try and take this 2, 3, 5 levels down to some really practical initiatives. I think in terms of the last few days, one of the things that we found most useful, not surprisingly, was the PPD. And I'm going to say a little bit more about that later. But the core question that we were discussing there was really, why are we not getting enough traction with digital financial inclusion? And how can we do more? And it really struck us in participating in this forum that there is such an important role that the business sector can play in mobilizing investment and helping drive this agenda at scale. Really, it's scale that is ultimately going to change lives. And one of the things that we need to do that, I say looking at Georgette, is we need an enabling environment. We need a level playing field, open competition, and a set of regulatory settings that really allow all the players in the ecosystem to make the best contribution that they can.
Yeah, but maybe you can, this is clear, the request is clear, but how can we make it happen?
That is such a great question. Let me give you 2 responses. First, from a private sector perspective, we would love to hear, this is probably unusual for regulators, we'd like to hear what you want. We'd actually like to hear articulated, what is it that you need, and how can we step in to help do that. We can mobilize resources to help. We're committed. So that's the first thing. The second thing in terms of really practical collaboration is GPF provides a great forum. AFI is a fantastic convener. We would like to see AFI take the initiative to support and convene at the regional and sub-regional level public-private dialogues, and to help us better connect all those in the ecosystem using your convening power.
That's fantastic. So these 2 points, I'm coming back to it, but I want to ask Georgette, what do you want?
What do I want? Thank you, Alfred. First of all, visa. I was talking to my friend from Visa, and because last year, Visa invited me personally. They met me here, I mean, not here in Fiji, but in Mozambique, to talk about financial education for millennials. It was at the Federal Reserve of Chicago, for example. So back then we had all those big, very rich countries, and myself, I was here and sharing with them the needs of my millennials, because the needs of my millennials are different from a lot of needs here. So in AFI, for example, AFI is a very global forum. So we have all the regions represented. Just an example, yesterday we took a survey on what we think that AFI should put emphasis on the next 5 years. For example, unfortunately, we are only 2 Caribbean countries here. So if we were more, the first answer would be de-risking, because this is a major problem we have right now on the Caribbean. And if we talk about financial inclusion, how can we do financial inclusion when our own financial system is at stake? And so, for example, AFI, what do we want? For example, I would talk generally. So AFI, it's global, but AFI should also listen to the regional needs. My needs from the Caribbean region might be different from the needs of Africa or elsewhere. That doesn't mean we cannot leapfrog from each other, but our priorities are different.
That's great. So you want de-risking and you want regional. And I understood you want to know what they want and you want also regional. So we can already see that we are moving somewhere. And I think we are actually in the course of embarking on a couple of regional initiatives. So I think we are on the way, but I do appreciate that we need to look at the Caribbean region a little bit more specifically. And this is certainly a takeaway from this meeting, specifically given the topic that you have mentioned. Coming back to what Penny said at the very beginning, why do digital financial services not pick up as we have expected? Now, we have a person here, and I'm very happy that he is here, because otherwise I would have a gender issue on that panel today. You see, Alex from Omedia Network is an investment partner to AFI, and these guys are what you can actually call the cutting edge people. Yeah, they want to drive us towards innovations. So I'm pretty sure, Alex, that you would perhaps find an answer to the question why digital is not taking off. And maybe you can also tell us what AFI can do in the future in this regard.
Thanks, Alfred. We're at a really unique time in the financial services regulation environment, and a really unique opportunity as well. Over the last few years, there's been a tremendous amount of people that have now had access to financial services. The Findex data that was quoted a couple of days ago, around 700 million people. But at the same time, as Alfred mentioned, while some of this has been solved with technology, usage remains really low, and that remains one of the big barriers. Jerry, in one of the panels around Beyond Digital Financial Services, talked about how in most mobile money deployments, on average, people use it 30% of the time, so 30% active rates. And of those, most people are only using 1 or 2 products. And so we have a long way to go in terms of how to drive both finishing the access journey, but more importantly, providing really relevant financial products and services to folks. And I think there's going to be two parts of the answer here. One will be a continuing amount of innovation around financial products. I think that we've solved part of the problem around how do you actually drive access. I think we don't yet know how do you actually provide relevant credit services at scale for everyone. We don't yet know how to solve the insurance problem with both the acquisition of customers and the delivery of services at very low costs. We don't yet know how to motivate people to save at scale on digital financial products and services. And so, one, there's going to be a big role for innovators to continue thinking about what are new models, what are new services, what are new collaboration models. The other side of that, I think, is there's going to be a really big role for regulators to be part of this journey as well. Some of these things are going to be uncomfortable. Some of these things are going to be new. Some of these things are going to be very different. And I think there's going to be a need for collaboration among regulators and the innovation community to try to figure out how do we actually allow innovation to happen in a way that is safe, that is responsible, but that also is pragmatic and can allow new models to develop.
But can we do more in this respect? Because, for example, last year we had a couple of innovators, even startups and fintechs in Mozambique. This year we also have some. What else can we do?
Yeah, great question. So there was a fabulous panel around RegTech and around sandboxes. I think those are two very different concepts, but they're both about this idea of how do you actually have innovative ways for regulators to partner with innovators. The sandbox or reg lab idea is one where you create a safe zone for regulators to work with innovators. That's something that at Omidyar Network we're starting to partner with folks at USAID and Gates Foundation to think about a RegTech accelerator to help innovators work with regulators, as well as thinking about, including with Joanne, around sandboxes, how do you create a safe zone? And so those are two areas where I actually think the regulatory community can have a really big impact, and actually where OFI can really have the next phase of its development. In Kennedy's session a couple days ago, there was a little bit of a vote about the level of interest. I actually think some of these developments around regulation, around regulatory technology, around sandboxes, and the capacity building around it, OFI in many ways is uniquely positioned to both share lessons on best practices, like the honorable delegation from Malaysia that talked about her sandbox, as well as actually capacity building on how you actually do it in a practical way with interventions in countries. And so I actually think this is a unique role that OFI could play in this ecosystem to keep moving it forward.
Thank you very much, Alex. Now, what I hear, the RegLab, innovation, cooperation, fintech, RegTech, collaboration. Now, you come from Harvard, right? And you see all these things from a research viewpoint. Where is space for you in all this?
Let me say first, I agree with what Alex was just saying, and this too is my first GPF, and it's been such an impressive week. And the thing that I'm taking away from it is that OFI is the organization at the right moment in time with the right structure and mission to be the real mover in this transformation that's underway. I'm at Harvard. I'm writing a book on financial innovation and regulation. I'm a former regulator in the US as well. And the thing that strikes me is I have a Harvard colleague who suggested that I use a framework in my work called wicked problems. I don't know if you're familiar with the term. Wicked problems are ones that are, pardon me?
Now we are.
Wicked problems are ones that have very complex causes and complex solutions, and they're kind of unsolvable, like poverty or crime. And in our lifetimes, really throughout history, financial inclusion has been a wicked problem. And now it's becoming a solvable problem. The technology is making it possible actually to create nearly complete financial inclusion, not just through mobile technology, but also through blockchains and data that are going to make it possible to identify people and give them authenticated identities and solve the de-risking problems and get everyone access to the internet. I mean, there's so many technologies swirling around this. And it seems to me that OFI has the key role of being the convener, because the people in this room are the ones who have the mission, the knowledge, and the power to get this right, to make this transformation happen, right? And also, you're working in the parts of the world where financial inclusion is growing fastest. It's much, much slower in North America and Western Europe than it is here. So you're right at the cutting edge. So that was a long, I maybe didn't even answer your question directly, but I think that the learning laboratory opportunity for the countries in this room to be doing the experimentation and then AFI bringing that information back, sharing it across, and sharing it to policymakers. I think everyone in the financial world should know what AFI is and think of AFI first when you're trying to think about how do you solve financial inclusion.
Thank you very much. That's a lot of encouragement. Now let me maybe ask Margaret. Margaret, you have just taken over this new position in the World Bank, and apparently, you know, we all know when we start something new, we can get inspired by ideas. Is this inspirational for you, what you hear? What will you do in your new job at the bank? And what do you see as a role for AFI in all this?
Thank you. Yeah, this is my 6th day on the job, I guess. But I've been in the financial inclusion space for a while, and I'm have taken over the global lead role for responsible financial access, which is like the key technical person at the bank for this topic. And the thing that I've always been inspired about with AFI, and I've followed its progress, even though this is, I think, my first GPF, is the importance of that peer-to-peer learning. You know, I've always thought that, you know, when you talk to people about what they're doing, if you ask them questions about what their job is, they're always willing to talk to you, and they're especially excited to talk to somebody who has their same job in another organization. So if you can bring the person responsible for a national financial inclusion strategy from one country to interact with somebody from another one, I think that's really, you know, probably the most powerful kind of learning opportunity. And the fact that this is such, and now congratulations also on the member-led, you know, the change to being a real member-owned, member-led organization and I guess graduation, I think, you know, just underscores that peer-to-peer aspect, which I think is so important and really kind of the direction of international development work. So I think that there could be ways to even further strengthen that in the context of also the discussion on sustainability. I'm curious about ways that we might identify to have more virtual opportunities, because it can be expensive to take, you know, especially delegations from one place to another, which isn't to say that that shouldn't also happen, because being immersed in a new reality is really powerful. But are there ways that we could further leverage these peer-to-peer experiences in the virtual realm? As you know, also, we're very keen at the bank on having a real you know, dialogue with you about how we can partner in different places to advance the financial inclusion agenda. And I think that just one comment around the issue also of regional work, I think that's incredibly important. I think especially with smaller states, but you know, even with larger countries, but especially with smaller ones, it's very, I think, the scale issue really comes into play. And if there are opportunities, and this is also gets to the private sector side, to create more of a level playing field, not just in a country of 10 million, but in a region of 50 million or 100 million, that, I think, really opens up that opportunity for scale.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Now, Penny, you yourself talked about the necessity to drill down on the regional level. We also heard from Georgette that regional cooperation, collaboration would be important. Do you have concrete ideas how Visa could contribute to such a regional dialogue? It would certainly look different than what we do on the global PPD level. So maybe we can just collect a couple of ideas in a kind of brainstorming fashion. Would be very helpful for us.
Sure. And in the interest of brainstorming, let me put one idea out there. ASEAN, by the way, I'm based in Singapore, and of course you guys are up the road in KL. At the ASEAN Central Bank Governors and Finance Ministers meeting earlier this year, the ASEAN countries identified action on financial inclusion across the ASEAN region as a really high priority. and in their dialogue with the business community, asked for support from the business community in realizing their vision for the future. I think in a really practical sense, AFI could help facilitate a dialogue between the countries of ASEAN as they're developing their regional financial inclusion plans with the private sector to make that desire for collaboration become real and to let us move to crystallizing some maybe concrete projects we could do to really bring the vision to life in a practical way.
Thank you so much. I mean, you are now talking about the Asian ASEAN region, and I mean, there are some of our members come from that region. I just would like to let you know that for some reason, the region you are talking about is the one where we haven't come that far with a kind of organized regional collaboration. You know, we have seen, of course, PIRI, which is a shining, standing out example of a regional cooperation. We have seen AMPI, and we are going to see what we call now the Financial Inclusion Latin American, Caribbean, hopefully we don't forget the C, FILAC initiative. We even see some engagement in the Eastern European and so forth, Central Asia region, but not so much in Asia. Maybe this is something we also need to ask our colleagues from these countries, what can happen. But I would like to ask you, or maybe you can give the mic to Georgette. Georgette, you are hearing a lot of good things, no? Goodwill, collaboration, good spirit, everyone is excited. Now Haiti was hit by an earthquake. Now, let's go to the problem, right? A couple of years ago. And after that, I think technology played a major role in at least bringing people to even the most simple access to a formal financial service. So if you review your own story and you listen to this, does that kind of fit with this reality that you are facing? What is maybe missing here?
Yes, no. First of all, yes. After the earthquake in 2010, technology did play a major role. Technology was used as a mean, but there was one factor. It was income. Why did technology play a major role? Because we had money inflow coming in the country. People were working. So when people are working, you need a means to pay them. So that's why we see access at that time. Even the central bank came to put guidelines to help that sector develop. But 2-3 years down the line, all the NGOs, but unfortunately, the national economy didn't kick up. A lot of these people who were working, now they're not. That means all those accounts, so all those accounts that were open, now they are either inactive or closed. So, of course, technology is key. Of course, access is important. But in our own experience in Haiti, we have a bigger need. The need is income. So in a sense, when we talk about SME financing, when we talk about insurance, micro-insurance, in terms of financial inclusion, it has a different meaning for me. Access might come at a second level. But in my level right now, what we need as inclusion is to give people a mean in order for them to have income. And once they have the income, they will use the system that we're putting in place.
Well, I asked you this question for a purpose, but the answer that you are giving is a very nice one, because in a way it mirrors why we are having these 8 pillars, right, for this forum. In other words, it seems that we are moving from a financial inclusion agenda towards expanded inclusion agenda, whatever that is. We are now talking about sustainable inclusion. Some of us talk about social inclusion. You are talking about the socio-economic factors here. So in other words, it looks as if this alliance would have to look broader. Now my question is, are we on the right track doing so as AFI, as a collaboration community? or should we stick to what we are really good at, namely making sure that these financial services are handed out in a safe and sound manner, of course, with innovation and technology as a driver. That's it looks like a bit of a paradigm shift to me. Can you reflect on this a little? Maybe we can start with Margaret right away and then just pass the microphone to our other partners.
Sure. I think this is, clearly this meeting has emphasized the issue of sustainability in this broader perspective. And I did give that some thought before the panel today. There you go. Okay. But I think that, to me, one of the reasons that AFI has been so successful is because it's had a defined a set of issues, a defined agenda, and defined kind of, we were talking about this yesterday at the club, and then it's had a very organic expansion, I would say. These years, the expansion has been very logical, and you understood, why the increased emphasis on digital, or why the kind of expansion has made sense. And so I think my thought is, because also we still have a very unfinished agenda on financial inclusion, and AFI is playing a key role in that sphere, to be cautious about going too far into something that's not kind of your core business and niche, but identify ways that you can expand that make sense to take on. I was having a discussion with somebody else this morning about finance for what, and I think that it's not for being able to say we've opened so many accounts. It's that we're helping people to do certain things in their lives, and I think in that kind of context, there's a lot of sustainable development, a lot of kind of social, economic justice issues that you could reach while still kind of maintaining kind of that core focus.
Thank you, Alex.
My overarching perspective on this is that in many ways, AFI is really unique because it's a member-driven organization. And for AFI to continue having value, it's really important for AFI to be responsive to the needs and desires and what's important to the member community. And as we evolve AFI over time, I think it'll be in part driven and entirely driven by what the membership needs. Alfred, the other day, you had a wonderful analogy of building the house, which I actually think is really appropriate in this situation. In many ways, the peer learning network, in my mind, is the foundation. It's an ability to bring everyone together in big forums like these ones and in smaller ones like the working groups. And AFI is working to deepen that foundation with things like the data portal, which are new and innovative ways to share information. I think there's going to be, the walls of the house, which might be some more focused responses to what members want. That might be things like, how do you think about technology and regulation, reg tech? It might be capacity building. It might be things like that. And there might be, forgive the continuation of the analogy, but the roof, it might be things like standard setting and the next level and really continue to be the voice for this community. And so at the end of the day, I think it'll really be driven by you and by what's really valuable, but I actually think there's so much of a foundation here that we can do some really interesting things.
Thank you. Joanne.
My suggestion is to put the consumer at the center, or the small business at the center of this, and ask what is blocking inclusion. And the answers to that are sometimes going to be technology types of answers, lack of internet access and so on. And sometimes they're going to be in the other pillars, gender issues, illiteracy, and then figure out how can you get the most impact in clearing those kinds of things. What are the doable, practical strategies, case by case, for doing it? And the other thing I would keep emphasizing is this needs fast solutions. The world is changing so quickly.
Faster solutions?
It needs rapid action. That, as a former regulator myself, our regulatory processes are not normally fast, which takes me back to the sandbox idea. Experimentation. Team up with research partners. Test things and find out, is this solving the problem? Is this helping the consumer? Is it not hurting the consumer? And if so, let's elevate these new ideas and share them across is the key, I think.
Putting the consumer at the center. Putting the consumer at the center.
Put the consumer at the center. Sometimes we forget to do that. We put products and industries at the center.
Thank you. Penny, please. Are we on the right track with this?
Yes, I think absolutely. I think it's a very exciting moment, actually, for AFI. I think all of us have actually got a very similar message. I'm very struck by the focus on the message that AFI needs to stay true to its core. Because while we wish the job was done, it's not yet done. I was really struck, Alfred, yesterday when you said, we've got the issue on the agenda. Everybody knows now, and it's about implementation and change. And I bit my lip and I thought, do I dare disagree or do I wait till I've got the microphone? And I think in this room, we all feel it's on the agenda. But let me tell you, in the corporate sector, the number of times I actually have to explain what financial inclusion is and why we care about it, you'd be so surprised. I think horrified is the word. So really, I don't know that we've done everything yet. So staying true to the core is really important. But the organic expansion in the AFI agenda with a rapidly changing world, with everything we're talking about, technology, changing consumer needs, sustainability, if AFI doesn't stay relevant and respond on those issues and serve the needs of the community, then it's going to be very difficult to be useful for the future. One final point, I think the rapid change in the environment really underscores the need for all of us to focus on capability building. It is something that AFI does and does really well, but it's something that we should really deepen and continue. And the pace of change, as Alex is talking about, you know, it's hard to keep up, and that means that we don't train people once. We need to keep training people and developing new relevant content and finding new ways of delivery, whether it's digital, so people don't have to travel, whether it's using, you know, coming together with the developer community and having a different kind of conversation. So I think there's huge opportunity there.
Okay, maybe we can have the last word from this small group before you guys want to go. From Georgette. Georgette, you are one of the owners of this organization, right? So what do you think when you hear all this about what AFI's future should look like? How do you see it?
I think AFI is on the right track because AFI came from a long way. My first GPF was in 2011. And since from then to now, even the cultural, I've seen years to years. So the way we make financial inclusion exciting. Last year in Mozambique, trying to explain the birth of the money in dancing in an opera, that was exciting. Again today, the journey of financial inclusion for the Pacific region through shows it's exciting. But one thing I have to go back to AFI. AFI is a member-driven institutions. We need to stay close to the members. What do I need as a member? What does Zimbabwe need as a member? What is the region of Africa needs as a member? AFI's role is not, for example, to say financial inclusion is the same for everybody. Of course, at the GPF, we have to choose the subject. For example, yesterday I participated in a session about refugees. So it was very exciting. This is the first time since I've been in AFI, I've seen a session like that. Is it relevant to AFI's core business? Yes, because some of members of AFI, that's what they're facing now. So I think AFI should stay global, of course, but also very close to its member needs, you know, and to bring response to it. Is it refugee? Is it de-risking? Is it access? Is it SME? Is it insurance? Whatever it is. So we need to talk about it and discuss it.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for this input. I mean, what I'm taking away, really keywords such as de-risking, frontier technology. Then, of course, we heard about surfing the needs. We heard about deepening the capacity building. And, of course, on top of everything, And then, of course, the regional dimension is very important. And then on top of everything, I think, or at the bottom, it depends on the way you see it. As a glue, you have the collaboration and the peer learning. So I think that's, in a way, we see the house kind of shaping. No? But as you said, on the one hand, rapid change is needed. On the other hand, these changes take time. And of course, we want to stay focused. So I think we take this home. We thank the panelists to sit on these chairs, first of all. Thank you very much. And you have done well, but you have even done better in enriching this discussion with these quick reflections. We only had 45 minutes. We hope you found it quite comprehensive and exciting enough. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hannig. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll move straight out into the breakout session. And for those of you who need to go for the inclusive insurance session at the Westin, the bus is already parked outside and ready for you. Thank you for your attention. We'll move straight into our next sessions at the various ballrooms. Vinaka. Please, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you traveling to the Westin, the bus will only wait a few minutes so that we can move immediately to the next session. We've got the bus at the bus bay in the front of the Sheraton. Please, this is not a coffee break. We move to our next session. We've got the re-risking the de-risked at the Ballroom A. Tech takes MSMEs, regulatory approaches to MSMEs, financings, innovations at the Ballroom B. Sowing the seeds at Ballroom C, all here at the Sheraton. Inclusive insurance at the Westin Senirossi Ballroom. If you want to participate in that session or listen to the discussions, please make your way now to the bus bay to move to the Westin.